Part 52. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 511. Chapter 511. This is the rhythm to be praised. Under the gaze of 4 pairs of eyes present, Xiao Yifeng's face was visible to the naked eye, and it turned several shades darker. "Are you questioning me?" This was said with obvious displeasure, and the look he looked over was more like tempered ice. The temperature of Li Yuan's brain, which was almost congested with jealousy, suddenly dropped sharply. He opened his mouth but was speechless for a moment. When she finally found the ability to speak, Xiao Yifeng was too lazy to look at her ugly face. Instead, he smiled pleasantly at Zhang Lingzi and Tong Yu, and pointed to the private reception area aside. "It's quiet over there, you guys, go sit there and watch, and I'll ask the secretary to get you something to drink." Li Yuan watched helplessly as Zhang Lingzi took the S-level contract and walked to the leather sofa to sit down. Secretary Xiao, who soon walked in from outside, brought 2 cups of coffee to him with a smile. Such treatment, even when Jing Huai starred in the popular costume drama, he had never been treated so carefully. She felt that the big stone that had been weighing on her heart for a while suddenly doubled in weight, weighing her so much that she could hardly stand up straight. She suddenly stretched out her hand and pulled Jing Huai's sleeve, as if pulling a life-saving straw. Jing Huai, you can't be so impulsive. Think about how much effort you have put in to get here, and you are still so young. How could you give up so quickly? Come on, go out with me first, and let's find a place to have a good chat. You know, I've always been very optimistic about you." Jing Huai was caught off guard and was really grabbed by her, but after hearing about his efforts, he thought of the unbearable past, and his expression suddenly looked like he had eaten a fly, and he was terribly disgusted. He waved his hand mercilessly. "Sister Wen, this should be the last time I call you that. Speaking of which, you can take shortcuts if you feel it's difficult. You were the one who told me at the beginning. If it hadn't been for your words, I may still be a little transparent now, but I won't become what I am today." Li Yuan met Jing Huai's looking eyes and noticed the resentment in his eyes. Suddenly, his whole body seemed to have been cast a restraining spell, and his mind went blank. Isn't this correct? Several agents she knew went with each other. When a party communicated, some people also told the artists under their hands. What did she say? Is it necessary to say it in front of Mr. Xiao? Jing Huai was the only one present who knew best what he had paid for some time ago because he wanted to take a shortcut. But as long as he still had sense, he would not dare or would say something like almost killing someone. Even if Su Qingmei appears in the public eye again during this period, she looks as if she was not seriously injured before. But because of this strange anomaly, he did not dare to say it out loud. Now I only have one thought left, to terminate the contract. Before leaving, with the help of the equally mysterious Mr. Shen, I tricked Su Qingmei hard and got angry. Then I took the remaining money and ran away, never to appear again. Under Su Qingmei's eyes. Zhang Lingzi took a sip of coffee and turned to look at the 2 people who were still arguing. She knew that Jing Huai escaped from control and was taken to Luye's research institute as a research subject, and Luye was also following Shen Yunqing's orders. Shen Yunqing also knew that she was coming to the company to re-sign the contract today. She came to sign the upgrade contract, and Jing Huai, who had plotted against her, came to terminate the contract. Is it a coincidence? Or, did someone arrange it this way on purpose? However, she did enjoy watching it. Xiao 11, take a look at the terms and conditions on this page. This is too generous, it must be S+. Zhang Lingzi heard Tong Yu's excited and suppressed voice, and withdrew her eyes and looked down at the contract being pushed over. It is clearly written on it. 1 S+ level TV series is recommended every year, 2 S-level TV series have female protagonists, and 5 A-level platform self-made dramas have roles to choose from. In terms of variety shows, there will be one permanent guest on a national TV variety show, and two first-term guests on a popular variety show on popular radio stations. If the performance is good, the company will try to let the artists continue to participate, and the platform's self-produced variety shows will be freely screened. Endorsement. Although Tong Yu had just taken a serious look at it, she came over and watched it again with Zhang Lingzi. She felt that she couldn't see enough, so she couldn't help but continue to whisper to her artist, "This is 100 copies of C. Even a top-level contract can't match this piece of paper. It's much better than I expected." Even though Mr. Xiao is backed by the Shaw Group, it will take a lot of effort to grab the resources. This contract, Mr. Xiao is really optimistic about you and will support you. Zhang Lingzi rubbed her itchy ears and nodded, "It's indeed very generous." It was so generous that she couldn't help but wonder if this S-level contract would include bonus points for the name Shen Yunqing. After all, she is still very aware of her current fame and influence. "Although I have a big-budget movie starring a female protagonist, it hasn't been aired yet, so I can occasionally see some clips on the internet that the show producers release from time to warm up the movie. The performance in several variety shows has indeed received a good response, but those few variety shows are not popular genres. Whether they are travel, survival, or traditional culture, they are relatively niche. Calculating it this way, the biggest reward for her gaining the most followers was actually the time when she happened to help Yoon Chan save the stage for a catwalk show, and with this, she became the brand ambassador of Yoon and the spokesperson of Shanyu's Haiheng, as well as received the card. An invitation to the International Fashion Festival from Mr. Luo. She wouldn't think twice about getting this S-class contract after Empress Yuan Zhao became a hit. But now, as Tong Yu said, Xiao Yifeng is too optimistic about her. It completely revealed that he would spare no effort to praise her. "Then do you think there is anything else you are dissatisfied with?" "I looked at it twice and couldn't find any of it. It's divided into 73%, after tax, and even the contract period is only 3 years, which is the minimum." Zhang Lingzi pondered for a moment, "If I follow the resources provided here, will I have to work non-stop for the next year? This seems to be worse than when she was the emperor in her previous life. When she was the emperor, she gave herself and her ministers holidays during the Chinese New Year, and she had 1 day off every 10 days. But now, is this a year-round rhythm? Tong Yu, do you know what you fear most about being a star?" "What?" "Idle. I have nothing to do. I can only watch other people active in various TV shows and movies, while I am busy at home. I have something to do in my spare time." "You forgot, I am also preparing to take the college entrance examination." Tong Yu. It's so weird that she actually forgot about this. It's all because this contract is so tempting. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 512. Chapter 512, I have the final say in my career. Li Yuan watched in confusion as Jing Huai picked up a pen and signed the contract termination letter that made her want to rush over and stuff it into the powder machine. By the time the fingerprint stained with red ink pad landed on that familiar signature, everything was a done deal. Xiao Yifeng took the termination letter and glanced at it and gave it to his secretary for filing. Then he looked at Jing Huai and said businesslike, "Will you issue the withdrawal statement yourself or will the company do it for you?" Thinking that he had lost a lot of fans during this period but still had millions of fans left, Jing Huai felt empty in his heart. "I'll post it myself." "Well, if you still have your belongings in the company, you can go and pack them up, and then you can leave." Jing Huai nodded, then glanced at Li Yuan, who was still in a state of despair. He hesitated and turned around, but walked towards Zhang Lingzi. Xiao Yifeng raised his eyebrows when he saw this, but didn't stop him. In his office, Jing Huai was sensible and would never dare to do anything excessive. But what Jing Huai did next still surprised him. "Zhang Lingzi, I owe you an apology for spreading rumors online. I'm sorry. I just feel guilty and don't expect you to forgive me. I'm really sorry. Zhang Lingzi looked at Jing Huai, who had bowed more than 120 degrees in front of him, and after a moment, he softly hummed. Didn't say anything like I forgive you. Jing Huai, however, breathed a sigh of relief. He straightened up and looked at the people sitting on the sofa. When he turned around, he laughed silently to himself. Although he stayed at home to escape from everything during this period, he did not disconnect from the internet. He still knew what popular entertainment news appeared on the internet. Not to mention the others, Zhang Lingzi went to the Liangchuan desert to film a movie. During this period, she did not participate in any large-scale activities. With just one catwalk show that saved the day, she was favored by two major clothing brands. After receiving the invitation letter to the International Fashion Festival, when he first learned about the news from the internet, he couldn't help but be speechless. There is a saying that has always been circulating in the circle: little success depends on support, while big success depends on life. Perhaps this is life. Not to mention the love rumors that are still on trending searches. For a female star who is still on the rise, she would probably be so worried that she could not sleep even if she was not grateful to refute the rumors. However, he did not feel panic at all with Zhang Lingzi. The whole person is incredibly stable. Zhang Lingzi, who is on the verge of becoming famous and is facing a love crisis at the same time, can still remain calm from the inside out. How did she think about cooperating with Su Qingmei to scheme against her in the first place? At that time, I really had a short circuit in my brain. The sound of the door closing made Li Yuan, who was still standing there, hesitate. She first thought that before Jing Huai left just now, he had even thought of solemnly apologizing to Zhang Lingzi for the original offense, without even saying goodbye to her manager, but soon she thought of a cruel reality. Without Jing Huai, she, as an agent, would only have 3 or 2 kittens lingering outside the 18th line. She usually doesn't care about those people, and her relationship with them is average. Can I only take those few with me in the future? Mr. Xiao, look at me. Xiao Yifeng raised his hand to interrupt what she wanted to say. It just so happens that you haven't left yet, so you won't have to worry about it again. Then he shouted to the secretary, who was still sorting out the documents, Secretary Yu. Li Yuan realized something and his face suddenly turned pale. The next second, the guess came true. Give Li Yuan a copy of the agent's termination letter and sign it. As soon as these words were said, not only Li Yuan, who was fired without mercy, was so panicked that he couldn't pick up his pen, but even Tong Yu, who was sitting on the sofa leisurely sipping coffee, was stunned for a moment. Turning his head to look at Li Yuan, whose hair was disheveled and messy, his expression was a little complicated. First, I didn't expect that Jing Huai would take the initiative to ask Mr. Xiao to terminate the contract, and now I didn't expect that Li Yuan would be fired. The brokerage industry is no different from other industries. After being laid off from other industries, you can still find a job in other companies. But if an agent is fired by the company where he works, it means that you have no ability to promote people. If you want to be an agent again in the future, you don't have to think about it. No one will trust you to take charge of you. Just consider changing careers. She had thought that Li Yuan was also a veteran of the company and would be the leader of new people, but she didn't expect that Mr. Xiao would be much more decisive than he expected. Li Yuan didn't want to sign this time, so he had no choice but to sign his name and fingerprint on the contract termination letter. Her salary is linked to the artist's performance. She has no artists under her, and the agent's basic salary is not as much as that of an ordinary employee in a small company. It is useless for her to continue to rely on it. Before leaving the office this time, Li Yuan walked up to Tong Yu. Tong Yu saw her walking towards him and stood up. What, do you have something to say to me? Li Yuan glanced at the contract spread out on the coffee table. It was the contract she had dreamed of, but now she was not even qualified to touch it. Thinking of this, she smiled sadly. Tong Yu, you win. At the beginning, she almost joined the company. A few years later, she was first abandoned by her artist and then fired by the company. However, the person in front of her was about to skyrocket with the artist. From then on, she and Tong Yu were worlds apart. Perhaps she won't even be qualified to see Tong Yu in the future. This time before Tong Yu could speak again, she turned around and strode out of the office. Tong Yu sat back and finally couldn't help but sigh. Li Yuan is still capable. If you make a mistake in this step, you will make a mistake in every step. Having tasted the sweetness of taking shortcuts, people will easily drift away, and once they drift away, they will easily overturn. It's overturned now. At the same time, I silently warned myself that I must be down to earth and step by step, otherwise Li Yuan's today will be her tomorrow. I was so absorbed in thinking that I didn't even notice that Mr. Xiao walked to the opposite side and sat down. How do you two see it? She woke up suddenly and subconsciously replied, Xiao 11 feels that the work schedule is too intensive and it is difficult to squeeze out rest time. Moreover, she also wants to take the college entrance examination next year and is already reviewing her homework. What Zhang Lingzi wanted to say was said in advance. When Xiao Yifeng looked over, he nodded, Mr. Xiao loves me dearly, but I also have my own steps. Xiao Yifeng understood what she meant as soon as he heard it, and asked directly, do you want greater autonomy than what is stated in this contract? Zhang Lingzi curled her lips and smiled. She liked talking to people who didn't talk nonsense. She nodded, yes. The one who is used to being the arranger is still a little uncomfortable being arranged now. If you can fight for it, then go for it. Tong Yu looked at the two people in front of her with full aura, took a breath and pursed her lips. Forget it, she'd better keep silent. Zhang Lingzi thought that she would have to bargain with Xiao Yifeng next. After all, a popular artist is just a commodity for the company to improve efficiency. Naturally, he can make more money if he can help the company make more money. This S-level contract is full of various resources, which is enough to prove this point. Unexpectedly, the other party just frowned and thought for a moment, then said, okay. Zhang Lingzi was stunned for a moment, then smiled, thank you, Mr. Xiao, for your trust. I will not let the company down. Even if she wants to have an easier life in this life, she still has to do her best in what she wants to do. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 513. After signing the contract and returning to the office, Zhang Lingzi watched Tong Yu close the door and lock it. Then he walked to the small safe behind the desk that was used to store some borrowed valuables, entered the password, and finally took out a thin, invitation letter. Zhang Lingzi. She took it and opened it and looked at it, Mr. Carlo's invitation letter. Tong Yu nodded and exaggeratedly breathed a sigh of relief. I have saved it for you for so many days, and now it can finally be returned to its original owner. After reading it, Zhang Lingzi handed it back to her. I think it's safe to let you go. Before Tong Yu could reach out to take it, there was a knock on the office door. Tong Yu hurriedly opened the door, and Zhang Lingzi put the invitation letter on the desk nearby. There were quite a lot of people standing outside the door, and the two of them had met just now. The one in Xiao Yifeng's office is located at the secretary's office. The purpose of the visit was stated at the beginning. Mr. Xiao learned that Mr. Jiang's current team only has Sister Tong and an assistant. He felt that this configuration was too simple and planned to allocate another assistant to Mr. Jiang, as well as a makeup team dedicated to serving Mr. Jiang. Publicity team. Then he pointed to the few young men and women standing behind him. they are all assistants who have not yet been allocated to artists. Teacher Zhang can choose one first. The makeup team and the publicity and hair team need to apply for temporary arrangements, which will not be available until tomorrow. After listening to it, Tong Yu felt refreshed and refreshed. She was originally thinking about asking Mr. Xiao if she could have another assistant. After all, her artist's future work would definitely be busier than before, and Lu Zhengzheng alone might not be able to handle it. As for the exclusive makeup team and hair promotion team, they are exclusive to first-line artists, and she didn't even dare to think about it. I didn't expect that my dream would come true so soon. Come in quickly, come in and talk. Zhang Lingzi stood behind Tong Yu and looked at the people brought by Secretary Yu. They are all quite young, and one thing they have in common is that they all have eager expressions. Secretary Yu asked them to introduce themselves. As soon as he finished speaking, 3 people stepped forward almost at the same time. Tong Yu smiled and narrowed her eyes when she saw this scene. Even if you come to be a celebrity assistant, you still have lofty aspirations. Everyone wants to be popular, or artists who are destined to be popular, even if they are just assistants, can follow the rising tide. She even heard that some people were already qualified to guide newcomers who had just entered the industry after getting their agent certificates, but they still did not hesitate to work as an ordinary assistant in a popular artist team, just to get in touch with a higher level in the industry. And connections. Xiao 11, this assistant will definitely be with you from now on. Come and see which one you choose. Facing the 6 pairs of eyes in front of her that seemed to be saying, choose me quickly, Zhang Lingzi had an inexplicable feeling that she was going to choose a concubine. She actually doesn't like having too many people around her all the time. In her previous life, the only one who could get close was Qing Yuan, and the other maids would only appear in front of her when she gave orders. She did not speak for a while, so the eager eyes of everyone who looked over became a little more nervous. Fan Yao. The girl standing at the back, almost leaning against the wall, suddenly heard her name and raised her head almost subconsciously. Her eyes widened in shock on her chubby face. Even when she met Zhang Lingzi's gaze, she still couldn't believe it. Pointing at himself, me. Zhang Lingzi nodded towards her. Fan Yao suddenly received the gazes of the 5 people in front of her again, and subconsciously shrank her shoulders, but soon thought that Teacher Zhang was still looking at her. She pursed her lips and tried to raise her head. She couldn't show her timidity. Even Tong Yu and Secretary Yu were a little surprised. It's not that the person chosen was bad, after all, he had already gone through a round of screening before he was brought here. But this Fan Yao, compared with the other 5 people, is at the bottom in all aspects. This girl probably also knew that she could not compare with the other 5 people. When she stood, she consciously stood at the end. Even when she introduced herself, she was the last one. For a moment I couldn't figure out why Zhang Lingzi chose Fan Yao. Secretary Yu glanced at Fan Yao's chubby face with a bit of a double chin, then glanced at the unwilling expressions of the other 5 people, and finally looked at Zhang Lingzi. Is Teacher Zhang sure to choose Fan Yao? Yeah, I'm sure. Fan Yao stays here, and the others will follow me out. Teacher Zhang, Sister Tong, I'll go back and resume my duties right now. After that, he left with the other 5 people. Although Tong Yu was surprised by the new assistant chosen by her artist, she had said before that Zhang Lingzi would choose it herself, so she didn't say anything and sent Secretary Yu and the other 5 people out neatly. Then she took a few steps forward and stopped sticking. Fan Yao stood against the wall but was still a little at a loss. Fan Yao, right, since Xiaoxi has chosen you as her assistant, we will be a team from now on, sharing will and woe from now on. Just call me Sister Tong. Fan Yao nodded obediently. Sister Tong. Then he looked at Zhang Lingzi and said, Sister Zixi, I've heard Sister Zheng call you that. Seeing that she was not as introverted as before, Tong Yu felt a little more satisfied. Zheng and Xiaoxi went to Liangchuan to film a movie before. When I came back, I gave her a few days off and will be back tomorrow. In this way, you go first, change the HR department to my office, bring your personal belongings, and fly to that table first. You don't have much time in the company anyway. When Fang Yao responded and went to work, Tong Yu asked Zhang Lingzi, I want to know why you chose Fang Yao. There is obviously someone better. It looks pleasing to the eye, so soft and well-behaved. Zhang Lingzi sat down on the sofa, picked up the script on the small coffee table and flipped through it. My assistant does not need to be excellent, but the personality and appearance must suit me. Tong Yu. She was speechless for a moment, and couldn't help but whisper, you're just choosing a concubine. Almost. Tong Yu. She didn't know what to say at all. Ahem, let's get down to business. There is only half a month left before the International Fashion Festival, and I won't arrange any extra work for you during this period. I think your skin is a bit dry after staying in the desert, so let's do a set of skincare first. I'll rest for 2 days. In addition, Shanyu's Haihang contacted me 2 days ago and wants to take an endorsement photo. I'll see if I have time after the maintenance. I still have to go 2 or 3 days in advance to catch up on the jet lag. Do you have any plans? Go home and have a meal with Anan. Okay, I'll give you 2 more days. Tong Yu nodded cheerfully. There is also the hotly searched issue in your relationship. Do you really plan to keep treating it so coldly and let the heat slowly decrease? Then what if you do it these days? If you meet Mr. Shen, you have to be careful. There are many more eyes staring at you now than before. Among those squatting outside our company, I am sure there are many who want to talk about you. It was just an accident before, Zhang Lingzi explained to Tong Yu. Now that I have come here specifically, if I can find evidence, I think they are capable. She is professional in counter reconnaissance. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 514. Fang Yao was still a little dizzy until he got off work. The assistants who were hired by Shaw Brothers Entertainment at the same time as her are still waiting to be assigned to artists, or to be selected by artists. And she has been appointed as an assistant by the artist that the company is planning to promote. It was incredibly smooth. It was already evening when she came out of the company. She watched Zhang Lingzi get into a black business car parked on the roadside. Then she trotted to the electric car parking spot on the other side, took out the small battery car for fans she had just bought, put on her helmet, and got ready. First go to the supermarket to buy some ingredients that you like to eat, then go home and treat yourself. In a black business car. Zhang Lingzi looked at Changning, who was sitting in the driver's seat in front and came to pick her up. Have you and Yunyi settled in? Don't worry, Sister 11, everything is settled. The 2 of us will live in the apartment arranged by my husband, which is quite close to yours, Changning said, starting the car. Sister 11, where are we going now? Zhang Lingzi rested her head on the headrest and said, go home. She just wants to be alone now. Changning glanced in the rearview mirror of the car and asked, Sister 11, are you tired? You haven't been back there for a while. I'm afraid there's nothing to eat at home. Do you want to go back after dinner? A little bit, I don't want to eat it yet. Changning immediately said nothing and just drove quietly. Half an hour later, the commercial vehicle parked in the underground parking lot. As soon as they came to a stop, Zhang Lingzi woke up from her sleep with her eyes closed. She unbuckled her seat belt and looked at Changning, who turned his head and was about to speak. Thank you for your hard work. I have nothing to do during this period. You and Yunyi should also have a good rest. I'll go up. Now, go back and drive carefully on the road. Changning had no choice but to swallow back what he wanted to say. Sister 11, also have a good rest. Watching Zhang Lingzi get on the elevator, Changning didn't start the car immediately. After hesitating for a moment, Changning took out his cell phone and sent a message. Sir, Sister 11 looked a little tired and went back directly without having dinner. Shen Yunqing stood up after reading the news. After a while, he replied, "Okay, I understand, you can go back first." Asterisk. The house has not been occupied for several months. Even if a housekeeper is hired to clean it from time to time, it still has an inexplicable and deserted smell. Zhang Lingzi put her mobile phone on the coffee table to charge, and walked around all the rooms first. She felt that they were all contaminated by her popularity, and then she went to the master bathroom to take a shower. After coming out, I made a bed for myself and fell asleep soon after lying down. It will be late at night when I wake up. She didn't turn over and close her eyes and go back to sleep. Instead, she got up and changed into a pair of unattractive clothes for going out. Before going out, she thought about it and put on makeup hastily. As long as she wasn't face to face and looked closer, she would never be able to recognize her. Zhang Lingzi's makeup. Just then I took my fully charged mobile phone and went out. I didn't do anything else. I walked slowly along the roadside after leaving the community. This area is very prosperous. The shopping malls nearby are open 24 hours a day. There are many people active even late at night, and the sound of talking and car horns can be heard constantly. It wasn't until I walked aimlessly to a river that the surroundings became quieter. She picked a bench placed under the street lamp by the river, felt that there was no dust on it, and sat down. I listened motionless to the sound of rushing water in my ears, and occasionally the sound of fish jumping out of the water. A homeless man was about to pass behind a bench dragging a patched snakeskin bag. Then he noticed someone sitting on the bench, and he paused out of curiosity. Normal people will turn their heads to take a look out of vigilance or curiosity when they hear footsteps coming from behind, especially when it is almost midnight. But Zhang Lingzi was too lazy to move and just pretended not to hear. The homeless man tentatively walked to the other side of the bench and sat down, turning his head to look over. This time, I finally met a pair of eyes that were so cold under the dim light that it seemed like they could cut the skin. He retreated subconsciously. If he hadn't quickly grasped the back of the bench, he would have been able to sit directly on the ground. I saw that you were motionless, and I thought you were asleep. If you sleep outside today, you will freeze to death after one night. Not sleeping, not sleeping. The homeless man was startled again when he heard the sound. Just now he saw the man dressed in black and with such sharp eyes, and thought he was a man. I didn't expect it to be a woman. Her voice sounded very young. It's so late at night, you didn't stay home to sleep well, and you had a conflict with your family and ran away from home. It's very dangerous to go to such a remote place, so you'd better go back quickly. Zhang Lingzi didn't expect that this person was still a warm-hearted person, so she had to suppress her impatience and said, "Thank you for your concern." Tramps also often look at people's faces. Even if the other person's expression is unclear due to his hat, the aura on the other person's body is quite obvious, which means he should shut up and be quiet. He touched his nose, continued to sit for a while, stood up, picked up the snakeskin bag and left quietly. After walking about 100 meters away, he saw an empty bottle that had been thrown to the ground under a tree, and he quickly bent down to pick it up. When I got up, I realized something was wrong. Why is there a figure here? Looking along the figure, he saw a man standing quietly next to the bushes behind the tree. He was wearing a black coat and was tall and thin. If he hadn't gone to pick up the bottle on the ground and saw the shadow, he might not have been able to pass by this man. Can notice. After running a short distance quickly, he couldn't help but look back. I saw that the man was still standing there quietly, not even moving. What's going on this night? Why are the two people I meet so strange? He muttered and walked away. But within half an hour, he rushed back in a panic and even the snakeskin bag he had been holding was gone. There were several men with tattoos smelling of alcohol and chasing behind him. "You, rag picker," Stop for me. The tranquility that Zhang Lingzi originally enjoyed was suddenly disturbed. Standed up and stamped his feet, turned around and looked in the direction of the sound. It was only when the homeless man saw the man standing up from the bench that he realized that he had come here again in a panic. The little girl should not be implicated here. Just want to think about it, but if you change the direction temporarily, you can only jump into the river. The key is that he can't swim. All he could do was yell, "Run!" Unfortunately, the other party did not move and attracted the attention of the drunkards who were chasing him. I asked you how to run this way, it turns out there is an accomplice. Not an accomplice, not an accomplice, I don't even know him. Then you're telling people to run, but you're still standing still. You're so brave. What are you looking at? That's the look in your eyes, brothers, beat them up. Seeing the people chasing him approaching the little girl standing by the bench, the tramp's heart tightened, and he gritted his teeth and stopped running. I am the one who offended you, I won't run away, you are going to beat those who are quick, don't bully others. I almost said it was a little girl, but luckily I changed my tune in time. It's a pity it's useless. That's not okay, just beat them together. Zhang Lingzi looked coldly at the three drunkards approaching her, rolled up her sleeves and moved her shoulders. She was unhappy, but fortunately the sandbag came over on its own. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 515. The originally quiet riverside was suddenly filled with the muffled sound of punches hitting the flesh and the sounds of screams one after another. At first, the tramp wanted to rush over and block the little girl, but before he could run over, he saw the girl rushing forward first. Without saying a word, he raised his fist and hit the girl who was running in front. She was shouting just now. The most powerful person's profile. At that moment, he even vaguely saw the man's flying teeth. Strength explains that people are ruthless and don't talk much. What followed was a one-sided siege. It was just different from what he originally thought. It was the girl who was beating up the three people on the opposite side. It was already quite late at night, so the sound of fists touching flesh could be heard very clearly, which made his teeth ache. Fortunately, the siege ended quickly. After all, the three men chasing him were half drunk. They had been chasing him for several minutes, and the brain's ability to control the body had dropped more than a little. They only used a fierce force to show off their violence, so that the person being intimidated could return. If you don't get caught, just calm down. But this time, not only did they provoke someone who was not afraid of them, he also attacked someone even more ruthlessly. The ending is destined to be tragic. However, after knocking the person down and unable to get up, Zhang Lingzi herself was shaken. It's not that I'm injured, it's just that I'm hungry. Hitting someone also requires physical strength. The last meal she had was with Tongyu at noon. She was already hungry by now, but it was rare that she had no appetite, so she didn't eat a bite of dinner. I just hit someone hard again, and after exercising vigorously, I feel even hungrier. Are you okay? The homeless man was so frightened that he subconsciously took 2 steps forward, but looking at his dirty hands, he did not dare to help him for a moment. What about that? Were you injured just now? Zhang Lingzi didn't want to speak, she just pursed her lips and shook her head at him. She turned around and was about to leave this place that was no longer quiet, but her eyes suddenly went dark. Seeing her suddenly fall backward, the homeless man ignored the others and quickly stretched out his hand to help her, but was beaten by a figure rushing towards her. Zhang Lingzi relied on her strong willpower to overcome the dizziness, and then realized that she fell into an embrace with coolness and cold fragrance. The familiar smell immediately destroyed most of her newly gathered willpower. Yunqing. Shen Yunqing clasped the waist of the person in her arms, her eyes full of heartache. Yes, I'm here. Zhang Lingzi simply let herself lean against him, and then asked after a moment, why are you here? This is the first time since she woke up in this world that she ran out to relax in the middle of the night. Even if she was so hungry that she didn't want to think about it, she was certain that she had not informed anyone in advance, so no one would know that she would wander here alone. Shen Yunqing, who was supposed to have rested in Ziwan, appeared here, which was beyond her expectation. Let's go back first. Shen Yunqing knew what the person in his arms was most worried about now, so he did not hesitate to show weakness. It's late at night and I'm a little cold. Zhang Lingzi, who still wanted to find a quiet corner to continue sitting, hesitated for a moment, then nodded, okay. Come. Zhang Lingzi looked at Shen Yunqing, who was squatting in front of her, and put his arms around her neck. The homeless man watched helplessly as the visitor carried away the cruel little girl, and then looked at the three flower-armed men on the ground who were beaten so hard that they could not get up. Monk Zhang Er was completely confused. This performance, where did it come from? Asterisk. Mr. Shen, you are back. Shen Yunqing nodded to the housekeeper who came up to him. Please press the elevator button for me. Okay, you're welcome. Zhang Lingzi, who was already a little drowsy after smelling the residual soothing aroma, opened her eyes when she heard voices and looked over, and saw the housekeeper of the building where she lived. She was pressing the elevator button. Come back. What does this mean? She patted Shen Yunqing on the shoulder. Have you been here before? The housekeeper stopped the opening of the elevator door and replied with a smile, Mr. Shen has been sitting in the lobby for almost 3 hours. Although she didn't know why Ms. Zhang had already gone home, Mr. Shen came to look for someone but couldn't even enter the door. He didn't leave after he came down and just waited in the hall. When Ms. Zhang came down, he didn't go over to talk. Instead, he waited for the person's front foot to go out and quietly followed him with his rear foot. She was confused by the behavior of the two people that night, but as a high-end residential property manager, she knew that this was not something she should be curious about. Even if she was curious, she had to keep it in her heart and not ask. But the question can still be answered. Shen Yunqing raised his eyes and glanced at her, and the housekeeper immediately shut up. When the two of them got on the elevator, they complained in a low voice, no matter what status you are in, if a man wants to catch the girl he likes, the road will be the same bumpy road. He yawned again, it's the same struggle. After entering the house, Zhang Lingzi was completely awake. Looking back at what I did that night, I felt a little embarrassed. But soon she stopped thinking about it. She just changed into a set of clothes, and when she came out of the cloakroom, she saw the late-night snack on the table in the restaurant. There is only one Cantonese dim sum restaurant nearby that is still open, so eat something first. Being hungry is not good for your stomach. Facing Shen Yunqing coaxing her like a child, Zhang Lingzi had a lump in her throat. Even though she still didn't have much appetite, she still took the chopsticks and spoon obediently. After eating a basket of shrimp dumplings and a basket of steamed pork ribs, and a small bowl of porridge, Zhang Lingzi put down her chopsticks and wiped the corners of her mouth, leaned back and looked at the person sitting opposite. Tell me, when did you come? Shen Yunqing poured another glass of water and handed it over before replying, after Changning sent you back, he sent me a message saying that you looked a little tired and didn't have dinner. Zhang Lingzi was silent for a while, and then silently reviewed the words again. Is there anything wrong with this? She looked a little tired, naturally because she had been busy some time ago, and now she could finally relax. In addition, there was only Changning and no one else around, so she allowed herself to slack off a bit. If you don't have dinner, you just don't want to eat? Besides, it's normal to skip dinner occasionally. In any case, she herself didn't realize there could be any problem in this, let alone outsiders. Who knew there would be such a person who could sense something unexpected just from a piece of news? Your Majesty, Shen Yunqing suddenly changed his title, that village in the suburbs of Beijing that you bought quietly without even the head of the village knowing your true identity was originally my mother's dowry. Zhang Lingzi had just taken a sip of water from the water glass and was about to swallow it when she heard the words and almost spat it out. Ahem, cough, cough, then what I did in Zhuangzi. She closed her eyes as she said it, finding it difficult to accept this reality. You don't know everything, do you? Shen Yunqing nodded honestly, absolutely. Zhang Lingzi suddenly didn't want to face him. How could she not know what she was doing there? Shen Yunqing wanted to explain everything thoroughly at once. Qing Yuan said, you would occasionally give her instructions before going to bed, and then disappear. So I followed her quietly once, and found out that you went to the village in the suburbs of Beijing. That time you fished by the pond all night and returned early in the morning. I cut my finger when I was cutting the grass, and I tricked the minister into dancing with his sword. The flowers I planted are actually dead. I went over there and replaced them quietly during the day. You don't go there often, so you didn't notice it. It was your first time to deliver a sheep, and even the head farmer said you handled it extremely well. Zhang Lingzi put down the cup and covered his mouth directly. Okay, stop talking. How could my old self be exposed so suddenly? Your Majesty, Shen Yunqing firmly removed the hand covering his lips. From then on, I realized that you are a human being, not a god. Even if you sit high in the hall, you still have the right to indulge yourself. I've always wanted to say it, but never had the chance to say it. The way you relax is so pure and straightforward. It was also at that time that I felt my heart pounding. Your Majesty, please forgive me for the offense I committed in those days. I was just a little worried and couldn't control it. From now on, I will complete this habit with your Majesty, okay? Zhang Lingzi took back her hand and asked after 2 seconds of silence, are you going to deliver a sheep? Shen Yunqing, I can learn. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 516. Chapter 516 Divine Hiddenness. I remember when I got on the elevator, the housekeeper said that you had been waiting in the lobby below for almost 3 hours. Zhang Lingzi glanced at her wrist that was still being held and did not pull back. How can you be so sure that I will still be there tonight? Go out, there is no such place now. Shen Yunqing, while we were in the lobby, I called Tong Yu. She said you would rest for a few days. A few days of rest means that no one will come to disturb her during these days, so she can do whatever she wants. Even if you go out for a walk at night and fall asleep the next morning, no one will come to disturb you. Zhang Lingzi couldn't help but curl her lips. Fortunately you are not my enemy, otherwise I would not let you live even 1 second longer. I know her so well that I can easily grasp her next move. Will your Majesty blame me? Zhang Lingzi pondered for a moment and shook his head. The development of this habit of mine can only be regarded as accidental. Although she is honored as a saint, she is not a saint. As a human being, she will also have joys and sorrows, but she must be emotionally stable in front of others to keep everything under control. Only when she is behind others can she indulge herself a little. There are many ways to indulge, and it was only by chance that she found the one that suited her best. That is to temporarily abandon the identity of the emperor, leave the majestic palace, go to a place where no one knows you at all, and no one will be afraid of you because of your identity, and do something that you can't do normally. For example, fishing. For example, mowing grass and planting flowers. Another example is midwifery of a sheep. Even just sit on the roof and watch the moon quietly for a night. No one would say in her ear, Your Majesty, it is not in line with your status to do this. Your Majesty, you must have a good rest so that you can be energetic when reviewing the memorial tomorrow morning. She just wants to take a break from time to time. Just occasionally. This habit won't affect anyone, and the effect is quite good. So unconsciously, a habit is formed. The only thing she didn't expect was that she carefully selected and hid it from everyone, not even Qing Yuan. The zhuangzi she bought with money from her own treasury was actually the dowry of Shen Yunqing's mother. This fate, what can she say? This is my first time here. Okay, I know. During the 3 hours in the hall, Shen Yunqing did more than just make a phone call to Tong Yu, and spent the rest of the time waiting. He reviewed almost everything the person in front of him had done since he woke up from the hospital until now. That's when I realized that this break was the first real rest for the person in front of me in the past 6 months. There is no assistant to follow and report the itinerary at every turn, and there is no short break of more than 10 minutes between shootings. For a person who is extremely vigilant, only complete relaxation can be considered a real rest, and the previous ones are not actually counted. In this way, he is 90% sure that His Majesty will sneak out at night quietly like his previous life, find a place where no one knows him, and do things that he would never do at ordinary times. He originally just wanted to follow quietly as before and watch the person go back safely, without any intention of showing up. But the accident happened so suddenly that he couldn't care about anything at the time. When he came to his senses, he rushed over and took the person into his arms. He will be exposed, and he is mentally prepared. I originally planned to go home tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow is the weekend, to see an and Zhang Lingzi frowned, but will they see that I am not in the right state? Although she had vented a lot tonight, it was forced to end due to an accident. She always felt a little uncomfortable. She doesn't want to see the people close to her like this. I want to be self-willed and ignore the original arrangements. Then another day, Shen Yunqing said with kindness, the most important thing is to be comfortable yourself. Only when you are comfortable will people around you feel comfortable. If you don't want to, don't force yourself. Zhang Lingzi suddenly felt that what she said was very impressive. You're right, let's do it. Shen Yunqing raised his head and looked at the clock hanging on the wall. It will be 1 o'clock soon. Zhang Lingzi stood up. It would seem a bit unkind of me to drive you away so late. You can stay in the second bedroom tonight, as long as you don't disturb me. Shen Yunqing smiled and nodded, thank you, Your Majesty, for taking me in. Zhang Lingzi turned around and walked towards the master bedroom. Hearing the sound of dishes being cleared in the dining room behind her, she was surprisingly not repelled. At this time in the past, she couldn't tolerate even one person staying around. Even the secret guards were kept far away by her. Hearing the door of the master bedroom close, Shen Yunqing's eyebrows showed a little worry. Now is no different than in ancient times. In his previous life, even if that person got rid of the hidden guard, he could still ensure absolute safety in that village. But in this modern era, this time he was lucky enough to detect the accident in time and arrive in time, but what if an accident happens next time? Could he still be so lucky? What should he do about His Majesty's habit? Zhang Lingzi didn't know the worries of the people across the door. She took a quick shower and got into the bed that had been messed up when she got up. When she thought about the next few days, she didn't have to worry about anything. Regardless of it, I felt extremely relaxed and fell asleep soon. Early the next morning, the door of the second bedroom was quietly opened. Shen Yunqing came out quietly, glanced at the still closed door of the adjacent master bedroom, pursed her lips, walked to the living room, found paper and pen to leave a message, and then left quietly. Zhang Lingzi slept until noon. Coming out of the master bedroom, you saw the door of the second bedroom was ajar. When you opened it, you saw that the bed inside had been made clean, the curtains were opened, and the bright sunshine made the whole room extra bright and clean. It was as if no one had stayed there last night. She took a look and closed the door. She walked slowly to the living room and saw the message on the coffee table. I have contacted my parents-in-law and Anan. I will not call you in the past 2 days. I have informed the housekeeper that all 3 meals will be delivered to the door on time. Have a good rest. No one will come to disturb you in the past few days and want to call. Fight again. Zhang Lingzi held the message in her hand and went over to open the entrance door. She saw a small dining car parked outside the door. The food was placed in a transparent thermal cover. Other than that, no one else was there. She brought the lunch from the upper floor and the iced fruit from the lower floor, and at the same time turned on the surveillance camera at the door and connected it to the TV in the living room. As I was eating, I saw a middle-aged lady in work clothes appear on the surveillance camera, silently pushing the dining cart away. After eating, Zhang Lingzi found the tea leaves she had stored before, boiled another pot of water, and made herself a pot of tea. Place the unfinished after-dinner snacks and fruits on the coffee table on the balcony of the living room, and then lie down on the lounge chair with a plush blanket next to it. The sunlight hiding under the clouds in the afternoon was no longer so strong. She spent the afternoon leisurely with this pot of tea, snacks, fruits, and sunlight. At 6 o'clock in the evening, the lady pushing the dining cart appeared on the TV monitoring interface again. After delivering the food, she left. Zhang Lingzi brought in the dinner and put the lunch plate on it. Halfway through the meal, she saw the elder sister coming back and pushing the dining cart away. She planned to write after dinner. One of the rooms in the house has been set up as a study room, but the pens, inks, paper and inkstones she bought have not been used twice. She took them out and placed them on the desk. Dip the pen in the ink and write casually. If you sleep enough during the day and take a nap in the afternoon, you will naturally not feel sleepy at night. Unconsciously, I wrote until late at night. Until my wrist became sore, I put the pen aside and went back to my room to rest. She was living a quiet and leisurely life in isolation from the world, but to the outside world, it was as if her whole person had suddenly been wiped out of all traces and disappeared. Even Tong Yu accepted Shen Yunqing's instructions not to disturb him, let alone others. No one can touch her movements. The media and paparazzi, who thought they could penetrate all the celebrities in the entertainment industry, were shocked to realize, Zhang Lingzi may really be an exception. When you don't want to be exposed, you can completely disappear in front of everyone. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 517. Chapter 517. Do couples still need to sleep in separate beds? 3 days, 72 hours, absolute silence. When Zhang Wenhui saw her daughter and son-in-law sitting side by side on the sofa, she couldn't express her concern for some reason. She originally thought that her daughter would be quite haggard after filming for so many days in the desert on the other side of Liangchuan, so she also thought about spending more time to replenish her daughter's health. But what I see now is that my skin is moist and shiny, and my whole body is in great spirits. How should I put it? It's like my whole body has been washed by the purest water. Just looking at it just let her feel that the years are peaceful. There is no way to describe the haggard look. The words that came to her mouth were replaced by, "Our Zixi is really getting more and more beautiful." Zhang Lingzi took the initiative to call Shen Yunqing when she went home this time. She knew that Zhang Wenhui would be more happy to see her come back to visit with Shen Yunqing. Hearing this, his eyebrows slightly arched. Mom looks younger too. Really? Zhang Wenhui touched her face. Xiao Lu, a new employee I just hired recently, also said the same thing. I thought she specially said nice things to compliment me. Now Zixi, you also say the same thing. It seems that it's true. But I am really in a good mood during this period. Your dad must have learned enough lessons. Ever since his head was broken that time, he has completely stopped messing around with Lu Chenjiun and deleted all his friends. I just found a small company to work as a consultant not long ago. He still has the ability, but he has been reluctant before, but now he is determined. I was promoted half a month ago. Didn't I do hotel room cleaning before? Now I can be considered a small leader. I am in charge of an entire floor. I only need to check whether the people under me are cleaning the rooms to a standard. By the way, the salary of new employees has also been increased by a full 1,015. Zhang Lingzi listened carefully and nodded, very good. Zhang Wenhui held her daughter's hand and said, in the past few years, your father and your brother have suffered a lot from you. Now they are determined and sensible. Zixi, you should also be good. I don't know much about the entertainment industry either, but the previous paragraph I've seen all the hot searches. This industry has always been very controversial. If you say something unpleasant and have red eyes, just treat it like they're talking about it. You have to rest assured that you only get what they want. This is your life. You have to try your best to make yourself happy. Hey, I only understand these truths when I am nearly 50. Yun Qing, please listen to this. The two people, who were no younger than Zhang Wenhui in their previous lives, looked at each other silently and nodded obediently as they listened to the instructions in their ears. But we Zixi are so smart, and I can tell by looking at you that you must not have been affected by those words. People have to be more open-minded in life. Okay, I know. Zhang Wenhui babbled for a while and then looked at the time before getting up. Your dad is about to get off work. I'm going to call him. There is a new deli outside our community. The roast chicken and braised food inside are not as good as those big restaurant soups. I'll ask your dad to buy some when he comes back. Zhang Lingzi saw her entering the bedroom, and then she got up and walked to the balcony. She picked up the watering can placed on the shelf nearby and watered the pots of flowers and plants on the windowsill. Hearing the footsteps and looking back, he saw Shen Yunqing walking towards this direction. Don't worry, I'm recovering well this time. Well, I see, do you want to plant some flowers over there? The balcony over there is quite big. Zhang Lingzi was moved, but still shook her head. I don't have time to take care of them all the time. Although she rested for 3 days in a row this time and did not leave the house during this period, due to the nature of her work, taking care of flowers and plants, raising small animals, etc., she could not do it herself. Since you don't have time to take care of it, it's better to do nothing. Shen Yunqing moved his lips, but in the end he said nothing more. After making the phone call, Zhang Wenhui came out of the bedroom and saw her daughter and son-in-law whispering on the balcony. She smiled knowingly and walked to the kitchen without stopping. The rice had just been steamed, Zhang Wenhui was still cooking, Shen Yunqing was peeling onions, and the doorbell rang. Zhang Lingzi, the only one still free, went to open the door. Zhang Runqing stood at the door with a bag of still warm cooked food. He saw his daughter coming to open the door and said, I forgot my keys when I went out today. Zhang Lingzi took the bag of cooked food and took a look at Zhang Runqing, who came in to change his shoes. His grey hair is neatly combed, and the suit he wears is a bit old, but the cut is very good. He should have made it before he went bankrupt. The whole person is indeed more energetic than before, and his breath has become calmer. Dad, I bought you a watch. It's a rare trip back, so naturally it's impossible to come empty-handed. She gave Zhang Wenhui a set of lady-level skincare products, and Zhang Runqing a watch, both of which were practical for the two of them at their age. However, Zhang Runqing's expression was a little flattered. What kind of watch should I buy? It's too expensive. You can also tell the time on your mobile phone. It's not a very expensive brand. Zhang Lingzi handed over a box on the coffee table. Yun Qing and I chose it together. After peeling the onions, Shen Yunqing, who was currently peeling the garlic, raised his head when he heard the sound, and shouted, Dad. Hey. Zhang Runqing took the box and looked at the logo on the box to know what brand it was. It was indeed not very expensive. The price was about 30,000. Of course, it couldn't be compared with what he wore before going bankrupt, but it happened to be what he was wearing now. Accessories that can be worn and help increase your face. Opened it and touched the dial. It looks good. Mix up the last cold dish and serve dinner. Zhang Lingzi took the chopsticks handed over by Shen Yunqing. What is my brother doing now? Forgive her for remembering him when she found an empty chair while eating. It was really the boy who hadn't been in contact with him for a while. Zhang Wenhui paused as she prepared to pick up the food. Yunqing didn't tell you. Say what? Zhang Wenhui put the chicken drumsticks in her daughter's bowl and then said, your brother wants to learn some music. He wants to enter the art class of Nanjing No. 1 Middle School. Yunqing helped to establish connections and got the trust there. He has a good education. This ordinary cram school is not enough if your academic scores reach the admission threshold for art. Yunqing helped your brother find a completely closed-off school where you are not allowed to even bring your mobile phone. Once you enter, you will have to learn to death. Guaranteed to get the grades you want. Shen Yunqing looked at Zhang Lingzi and nodded. Although the management is strict, the management method is very scientific. As long as Xiaoxu can endure the hardship. Zhang Lingzi gave him a piece of fried yam and said, thank you for your trouble. If he can't pass the exam, it means he is not a student. Zhang Wenhui and Zhang Runqing nodded in unison. We told him before we left that if it doesn't work, we might as well learn a profitable technique. We don't expect him to be very successful and just be able to support himself. After dinner, Zhang Runqing did not sit down on the sofa like an old man before, but got up and went to wash the dishes. Shen Yunqing took over the task of clearing the table. Zhang Wenhui took Zhang Lingzi to clean up the bedroom. It's getting dark outside, so don't drive back. Stay here for one night, and get up and have breakfast before leaving tomorrow. Having just relaxed for 3 days, Zhang Lingzi was too lazy to disagree with Zhang Wenhui at this time. After entering the house, she obediently helped spread the sheets and quilts. Just as she saw Zhang Wenhui closing the cabinet, she looked at the only quilt on the bed, and still couldn't help but ask, is it just one quilt? Do you and your wife usually sleep in separate beds? Zhang Lingzi. She was speechless. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 518. Chapter 518. Things should start and end. The TV in the living room is playing the family ethics drama that Zhang Wenhui must watch every night these days. There was a Go board carved from wood on the table in the restaurant next to it. Zhang Runqing and Shen Yunqing turned a deaf ear to the sound of the TV and kept playing. Zhang Lingzi came out of the kitchen with a plate of cut fruits, glanced at it as she passed by the dining table, and couldn't help but cough slightly. This chess handicap is a bit harsh. Zhang Runqing was holding the chess piece and thinking about where to land it. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of his daughter standing aside, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Xiao 11, help Dad see which move is better. He has heard his wife praise him many times about how good this kid is at playing Go. Ling 11 just forked a piece of apple and stuffed it into her mouth. She raised her eyebrows when she heard this, put down the fork, reached out and tapped on one of the crosses. Here. Zhang Runqing dropped the chess piece without even thinking about it. Shen Yunqing pursed his lips helplessly. He had already calculated where Zhang Runqing would go next, but when His Majesty interrupted him, he had to calculate again. He picked up the teacup beside him to drink, but it was empty. Before Zhang Lingzi left, she poured it for him and reminded him, it's hot. Shen Yunqing nodded and replied habitually, well, thank you. Zhang Runqing was sighing that his daughter had taken such a wonderful step to help him. When he heard the sound, he looked up and asked, why are you two so polite? Zhang Lingzi forked another piece of apple. Upon hearing this, she turned her wrist and brought the forked apple piece to Shen Yunqing's mouth. Shen Yunqing was stunned for a moment, then opened his mouth and bit down. The slightly sour apple tastes sweet. Zhang Runqing was directly fed a bowl of dog food, and he decisively stopped talking. He lowered his head and continued to study the chess game. Zhang Lingzi carried the fruit plate back to the sofa in the living room and sat down, watching TV with Zhang Wenhui. Although it had no beginning and no end, and the plot was a bit illogical, she was looking at it quite seriously just for fun. It wasn't until the advertisement was interrupted that Zhang Wenhui looked away from the TV screen. By the way, Zixi, isn't your TV series finished filming? When will it be broadcast? After filming, we still need to edit, dub some characters, and create the opening and closing songs for the interludes. It will have to wait until after the year. However, the broadcast station has been confirmed, the national channel, and the broadcast time has not yet been determined. Zhang Wenhui was a little dissatisfied with the wait for so long when she heard the previous one, but when she heard that it was broadcast on the national channel, she was immediately excited again. The TV series that can be broadcast on the national channel are all carefully selected and of high quality. I guarantee it, Zixi, this drama you film will definitely be a hit. Zhang Lingzi frowned and nodded without being modest at all. I think so too. Zhang Wenhui suddenly couldn't laugh or cry. You kid. But it would be best if it could be broadcast in time for the new year. At that time, adults and children are on vacation, and there are many people watching TV. Aren't you all pursuing those ratings now? During the new year, the ratings during that time were absolutely the same. It depends on whether the post-production side can do anything. It's best to be powerful. Hey, the second episode has started, just watch it. Zixi, the evil mother-in-law of the heroine in this episode, will definitely be disappointed. Shen Yunqing waited for Zhang Runqing to make a move, then turned his head and looked towards the living room. I saw this man sitting cross-legged on the sofa, with the fruit plate in his hand. While eating fruit, he accompanied his elders to watch nonsensical TV series that they would never watch at all. His eyes were bright and unconsciously bent, and you could tell at a glance that he was in a very deep mood. Nice and relaxing. Until there was a reminder of a cough in my ear. He turned around and met the teasing eyes of his father-in-law across from him. His fingertips holding the chess pieces made a mistake. He originally planned to give up a few more pieces, but now he surrounded and killed a large area on the opposite side. Zhang Runqing. I can't laugh anymore. After struggling for less than 10 minutes, I simply threw the chess piece in my hand into the chess basket and said, forget it, I can't play anymore. I can tell. I'm looking for trouble. Not only is my daughter a good chess player, she can be on TV, but I didn't expect that even my son-in-law is so good. Although he is a bit shameless as a father, he is also very proud at the same time. An episode of a TV series these days only lasts for more than half an hour. By the time Shen Yunqing helped his father-in-law tidy up the chessboard, the ending song just started playing on the TV in the living room. Zhang Lingzi's hands were empty, and the fruit plate was taken away by Zhang Wenhui. At the same time, she was pushed, in a blink of an eye. It's past 9 o'clock. You two are usually busy, so it's rare for you to come over and have a rest. Go back to the house and go to bed early. I'll go to bed with you. Your dad is going back to the house too. Zhang Wenhui said and winked at her husband. My daughter and her son-in-law were separated for more than a month while filming, and now that they are back, they rarely get 2 days of rest, just in time to cultivate their relationship. How can they be like light bulbs? Zhang Runqing was stunned for a moment, then he understood, yawned, and nodded. I didn't expect playing chess to be so energy-consuming. I can't do it anymore, I'm going back to the house first. Soon only Zhang Lingzi and Shen Yunqing were left in the living room. How about I go to Xiaoxu's room to rest for the night and restore it to its original state before they get up tomorrow morning? Zhang Lingzi felt inexplicably sad when she saw his cautious look. She had been awake for more than half a year. Thanks to the development of modern social networks, she had also seen many men and women in love online. Most of them were passionate, bold, and straightforward. Although she and Shen compared with other couples, Yunqing's situation is indeed a bit special, but it is obviously abnormal now. Aware of this, Zhang Lingzi simply grabbed the man's wrist and said, "No, I told you, it's okay." 3 days were enough for her to get rid of all the negative emotions. Shen Yunqing was held by the hand all the way to the door of the second bedroom. She didn't let him go until Zhang Lingzi pushed the door open. "I'm going to wash up, you go in first." Shen Yunqing nodded subconsciously and walked in. When he saw that there was only one quilt spread out on the bed in the bedroom, he stood there for nearly 10 seconds before sitting on the dressing stool opposite the bed. Then he looked at the wardrobe placed on the wall. But when Zhang Lingzi came back from washing, he didn't go over and open the cabinet to see if there were any extra quilts inside. "It seems that there is not much hot water in the bathroom. Go quickly, or you will have to reheat it." "Okay." Zhang Lingzi waited for him to go out and do some skincare first, then changed into the pajamas Zhang Wenhui had prepared for her, walked to the bed and lifted the quilt. Shen Yunqing wiped her hair and pushed the door open, meeting the eyes of Zhang Lingzi, who was already sitting on the bed. The steps are subconsciously like a pause. "We only have this quilt today, there's nothing extra in the cabinet." Zhang Lingzi held her cell phone in one hand and patted the quilt covering her body with the other. "You shouldn't have the habit of grabbing quilts while you sleep, right?" Shen Yunqing: "No." "That's good. Is there a hair dryer in the bathroom?" "Looking for it, but it's not there." "That should be in their bathroom." Waiting for others to go around to the other side of the bed and sit down, Zhang Lingzi put down her phone and patted her thigh. "Get down." I'll dry your hair." Afraid that she wouldn't be able to do it well, she just watched some short videos sharing the sweet daily life between couples. This is the most suitable one. There was an ambiguous sound in the video before he could exit. Shen Yunqing glanced at it subconsciously. His ears were red just now, but now he felt like laughing again. Until Zhang Lingzi took the towel in his hand directly. "Hurry up. The temperature has dropped now, but the heating has not started yet. How could you not know that being wet for too long is bad for your health?" Shen Yunqing still obediently lay down across a layer of quilt. Zhang Lingzi held a towel in her hand and rubbed the back of his head, her hands moving inexplicably. When she watched the video before, she was a little suspicious that it was just a couple helping to wipe their hair. The comments all said that it had an ambiguous stringy feel. Until this meeting, even though there was a thick quilt between the two of them, she still felt that Shen Yunqing's breath penetrated the quilt and blew onto her legs, followed by a numb feeling from her thighs. It penetrated to her heart in an instant, and she couldn't help but take a breath. The sound of breathing reached Shen Yunqing's ears. He thought he was being pressed and hurt, so he quickly moved his head. His originally clear voice became a little muffled due to the obstruction of the cloth. "What's wrong?" "Don't move." Zhang Lingzi couldn't help but take a deep breath. "My hair hasn't been dried yet." Everything must have a beginning and an end. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 519. Chapter 519. The right person takes action. Early morning. After getting up, Zhang Wenhui went to the kitchen to make porridge, then put on her coat and went to the breakfast shop across the street to buy fried dough sticks, steamed buns and tea eggs. When she got home, she saw her husband already sitting on the sofa in the living room, watching the morning financial news. She glanced towards the second bedroom. 11:11 and Yunqing haven't gotten up yet. Zhang Runqing shook his head. "There's no movement. I smell that the porridge is almost ready. Go call them." "No," Zhang Wenhui hurriedly held him down, "both children are usually so busy. They can sleep as much as they can. Let's eat first and keep them warm." The couple left a note after dinner and then went out to work. The second sleep. Thick curtains blocked the already rising sun, and Shen Yunqing was the first to wake up. Just as soon as it moved, the person sleeping in his arms noticed it and opened his eyes immediately. With their eyes facing each other and breathing intertwined, Zhang Lingzi was confused for less than 2 seconds before she woke up. She heard the silence outside and asked, "What time is it?" Shen Yunqing reached for the phone on the bedside table. After seeing the time displayed on the lighted screen, he was silent for a moment. "It's 3 minutes to 9:30. Zhang Lingzi, is it possible that if two people hold each other while sleeping, it will be easier for them to stay in bed?" "I guess so. At this time, they should all have gone to work." Zhang Lingzi closed her eyes. "Are you busy with anything today?" "It's no big deal. I plan to go find Anan again at night. She should be out of school by then, and there will be nothing to do during the day," Zhang Lingzi said and stuffed the phone in his hand under the pillow. "Then just stay in bed for a while. Although I won't be able to sleep after I return to my cage, I can still do something else." To be honest, she simply missed out on a lot of fun before. Only now do I know that only two people with one quilt can get the key to the door to the new world. It's past 10 in the morning. Zhang Lingzi got up holding her stomach that started to growl, walked to the living room and saw the note Zhang Wenhui left for her. More than 2 hours have passed. The fried dough sticks and buns that I bought have already cooled down, so the porridge is still a little warm. She recalled the steps Zhang Wenhui took to cook last night. She turned on the gas stove valve, turned on the heat, and heated the rice. When Shen Yunqing finished cleaning up the bedroom and changed clothes and came out, he saw the figure busy in the small kitchen, and his footsteps suddenly stopped. He had never imagined that this person would appear in the kitchen holding pots and pans. Needless to say, in his previous life, he was sure that this person had never even entered the imperial kitchen. In this life, as a star, he has his own assistant to take care of his daily life, and there is no need to cook. But now this scene appeared in front of him so unexpectedly that he couldn't move his eyes away. Zhang Lingzi took a spoon and was about to put the hot porridge into a bowl. As soon as she opened the lid of the pot, her hand was empty, and the spoon fell into Shen Yunqing's hand. "I come." She raised her eyebrows and gave him the job. She turned around and turned off the steamer that was heating the buns. "Add some sugar to my bowl of porridge." Shen Yunqing followed the instructions and found the sugar bowl and took out the brown sugar one. "Is brown sugar okay?" Zhang Lingzi: "Yeah." The steamed buns that were reheated did not taste as good as the ones freshly baked, and the fried dough sticks were already soft, but neither of them disliked them and ate them thoroughly. Before leaving the house, Zhang Lingzi wrote another sentence on the note she left for Zhang Wenhui. After Shen Yunqing checked that the gas and electric lights had been turned off, the two of them went out. At this time, everyone who works or goes to school has basically gone out. The elevator is open without any obstruction. From the time I get into the car parked in the underground parking lot, I don't encounter anyone. Zhang Lingzi fastened her seat belt in the passenger seat and turned her head to look at the person next to her who was starting the car. Qian Xiao Xiao. She had just restored her phone to communication mode less than half an hour ago. She thought Tong Yu would be the one who came to her first, but she didn't expect it was Qian Yaya. The car drove out of the parking lot smoothly, and Zhang Lingzi answered Qian Xiaoxiao's voice call. "Xiao Xiao, what do you want from me?" The voice that came out of the phone was not Qian Xiaoxiao's. "Miss Zhang, this is Qian Yihan. I dare to bother you with my small number. I contacted you yesterday but couldn't get through. My phone was turned off yesterday." "Ah, I thought." Qian Yishan smiled sheepishly and decisively stopped talking about business. "Actually, I came to you this time because I was asked by an old gentleman. You have returned to the imperial capital now, right?" "Yes, I just came back a few days ago. I only found out about it when I saw on the internet that the crew of Empress Yuan Zhao in which you participated was preparing to conduct its first offline promotion. I have a teacher here who once taught me. He watched your previous recording. Painting and calligraphy handed down from generation to generation. I have always wanted to see you. Meet me. Why? Didn't you copy a piece of Blue Waves on the show before?" It was almost included in Mr. Zhang's museum. As a teacher, I happen to be studying the works of the great painter Xian Weiyun, and I have become obsessed with it. So, after seeing your paintings on the show and seeing that Yaya has a good relationship with you, I immediately contacted me and wanted to introduce you to you and find an opportunity to meet you. Zhang Lingzi did not reply for a while, but couldn't help but turn her head and glance at the owner who was driving next to her. She had never expected that a painting that was copied impromptu could still cause such an aftermath. Qian Yishan didn't receive a response for a while, so he quickly added, "If Miss Zhang is busy, we can make an appointment at another time." "Busy, but not busy the old gentleman you are talking about is. Since she is obsessed with studying the divine painter Xian Weiyun, she still has a good impression of him. Yuan Hui. I remember that Miss Zhang knew Mr. Li and Mr. Yuan Hui have been friends for many years. They are both members of the Painting and Calligraphy Association. Mr. Yuan also holds the title of Vice President of the association. It's just that he is obsessed with research. Not very involved. The Painting and Calligraphy Association is not a small but not a large circle. It is not accessible to ordinary people. After all, the threshold for joining the association is quite high. However, since the association has been established for so many years, it has naturally attracted many outstanding calligraphers and painters. Together, these people can be considered a large group. If you can serve as the vice president, your qualifications are definitely at the senior level. In addition, the other party and Li Wangsuan are still good friends, so it seems that they are all in a small circle. Through such multiple relationships, she is now a junior, and the elders take the initiative to invite her to meet. Whether it is out of politeness or otherwise, it is difficult to refuse. Today, where will we meet? When the goal was achieved, Qian Yuchain couldn't help but make a yeah gesture. I am now helping the elders organize information at the Painting and Calligraphy Association. Why don't Miss Zhang just come to the Painting and Calligraphy Association? The association is built in a park, although it's almost winter, but the scenery is still very good, and there are places to eat and have afternoon tea, and you can also have some fun. Moreover, the entrance to the association is strictly prohibited, and there is also a special entrance, so you don't have to worry about exposing your whereabouts. She certainly won't talk about it everywhere. Can I bring someone else with me? Ah, could you tell me who the other party is? My boyfriend. Qian Yihan. Did she forget to mention that she is still a 11 fan? When the love search trend came up a few days ago, she couldn't help but fought with those sunspots for hundreds of rounds after seeing it. The result was that he was caught off guard and was beaten down by the rightful owner. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 520. Chapter 520 Unimpeded. The next second after hanging up the call, Zhang Lingzi received the location information sent by Qian Yishan using his own number. Probably because he was afraid that she wouldn't be able to find the place according to the address, he sent a long and detailed route guide after a while. Zhang Lingzi clicked on the map and waited until the car stopped in front of the zebra crossing before handing it to Shen Yunqing. "Let's go here." Shen Yunqing only glanced at it. Calligraphy and Painting Association. "You been to?" "Well, I was invited to restore an ancient painting." Zhang Lingzi silently took the phone back after hearing the words, rarely able to stop talking. This person has been to the Painting and Calligraphy Association, and the veteran gentleman is also the vice president of the Painting and Calligraphy Association. Maybe we have met before. The right person for my research is right in front of me, but I don't recognize him. Ugh. Shen Yunqing was confused. Who are you going to see? Although he didn't hear the content of the call, he could barely guess it. It's an old gentleman named Yuan Hui. He had seen my copy of Blue Waves and Everything in Heritage before. Since then, he has been wanting to meet me. He couldn't wait to contact me when he learned that I was back in the imperial capital. He just told me the caller was Qian Zioxio's sister-in-law, who said that this veteran gentleman has been studying the divine painter Siem Weun for the past few years, and he is obsessed with it. Shen Yunqing once wore a vest called Siem Weun. Looking at his somewhat confused expression, Zhang Lingzi held back her laughter. I guess this old gentleman will definitely ask me if I have seen the original work of Bibo Wangxiang. Do you think I should answer yes or no? I should answer yes. If so, then the next question should be, where did I see it? If the answer is no, I have to explain why I was able to copy such a painting of blue waves. Or just say, in a dream. Also good. Zhang Lingzi finally laughed out loud. I have already planned. If I can't resist the old gentleman's questioning, I will simply push you out and just say that I met you there. Everyone knows that you are still there. If you know how to restore ancient paintings, you might be able to see the original work and have it restored successfully. Shen Yunqing. So his task tonight is to draw another blue waves and everything and deliberately make it old to disguise the original. That's not right either. They were all painted by him and are original works. At the Painting and Calligraphy Association Library on the other side, Qian Yishan also breathed a sigh of relief after hanging up the call. She has had less and less contact with her teacher in recent years. After all, she is obsessed with research, and she has to lead students as well as her own research direction. Although the research subjects are from the same dynasty, one is a calligrapher and the other is a painter, so they are not the same person. Historical data does not say there is any relationship between the two people, so naturally there is nothing to communicate with each other. But since they saw the painting Blue Waves and everything, the connections suddenly became more numerous. The person they paid attention to may have seen the original work of Blue Waves and everything, and his Yuan Zhao style writing impressed her. It's beyond comparison. So she was caught by the teacher again and helped to contact people while doing research. Fortunately, now we can finally see the clouds clear and the moon shines brightly. That is, Ms. Jiang's partner will also come together, so she still needs to slow down. Too suddenly. You have to do a good job of keeping it secret. The popularity of love searches has just passed in the past 2 days. If the news of her invitation accidentally leaks out, then she will be a sinner among 11 fans. Just as I was about to enter the room to report the good news to the teacher, there was a sudden noise from the side door not far away. She squinted her eyes and looked over. Taking advantage of standing in the corridor on the 3rd floor, she quickly had a panoramic view of the team that had just entered. Brother security guard, did anyone come to visit the association today? Why are there still people taking pictures? The security guard responsible for guarding the museum just saw the team not far away. He raised his head and replied to Qian Yishan, they are not here to visit, they are from the association. My granddaughter is in the entertainment industry. She is currently filming a variety show that I forgot its name. She came here today to film and promote our calligraphy and painting association. Don't worry, these people will not come to our library. If something is accidentally broken, their program team will not be able to compensate. Qian Yuchen couldn't help but frowned when he heard this. Although these people would not come to the library, she was still a little worried. Originally, she planned to ask Zhang Lingzi and her partner to park the car at the side door, and then go over and lead them in. But now this plan is somewhat unsafe. Brother security, 2 distinguished guests from Vice President Yuan will come over later. Can you let them drive in directly through the side door? If you want to say which leader of the Calligraphy and Painting Association is most familiar with the security guard, it must be Vice President Yuan. After all, this old man spends less time in his exclusive office than in the library he is guarding. At 6 o'clock in the evening, the library would turn off the lights and close its doors. He had to go in more than once to remind this old gentleman who had lost track of time as soon as he started doing research. Vice President Yuan's distinguished guest, It's just that our association hasn't allowed cars from outside to drive in before." The security guard hesitated for a moment, then gritted his teeth and nodded, "Then I'll talk to the old man guarding the side door later. When the person arrives, let him raise the pole manually. At that time, I will have to ask Vice President Yuan to sign a release note. I am only a security guard and I don't dare to take this responsibility." Qian Yihan directly agreed on behalf of the teacher, "Okay, no problem." She was sure the teacher would be happy. "Just tell me when the bus is almost here." Qian Yishan responded and turned around and walked into the reference room behind him. Walking around several rows of densely packed bookshelves, I saw a teacher with a pair of reading glasses hanging on the bridge of his nose that was about to slide off. He had opened several books at the same time and was writing something down. When the old man stopped writing, she dared to speak out, "Teacher, I have contacted Miss Zhang, the one who copied everything in the blue waves that you have been thinking about." Yuan Hui's face immediately lost the impatience of being disturbed, and he raised his head and looked straight at his student. "Where's the person?" Fortunately, Qian Yuchain has become accustomed to the directness of her teacher. On the way here she continued in one breath, "You also know that Miss Zhang is still a star, and it just so happens that there is another variety show coming to the association to record today. It's not advisable for both parties to meet, so Miss Jiang's car needs to be conveniently driven in and parked in front of the museum. The security guard said that you need to sign a release slip. Also, Miss Zhang is coming with her partner." As she expected, Yuan Hui waved his hand indifferently, "As long as people can come." "How long will it take for them to arrive?" Qian Yishan took out his mobile phone and said, "I'll send another message to ask." "Miss Zhang, where have you been?" "Just past the side door. Where can I find you and Mr. Elder?" "Qian Yihan." She was stunned for 2 seconds before replying with 3 words, "Museum." Then he raised his head and met the teacher's expectant and eager eyes. "Miss Zhang said they have come in through the side door. Didn't you ask me to sign the approval slip?" I don't know, am I going to the wrong place?" The teachers and students upstairs were looking at each other. The security guard in the security room downstairs, who had just received instructions from Qian Yihan, looked at the black car with an unfamiliar license plate that was driving towards us unobstructed not far away. His whole body was filled with confusion. Somewhat confused. He didn't even have time to ask Vice President Yuan to sign, and then took the approval slip to Lao Li, who was looking at the side door, to tell him about this. Why did the car drive in directly? End of this chapter.